This is the condition. Something is operating, and the only evidence available is response. There was no signal that marked a beginning, no internal marker that would allow a clean before and after. What's present simply presents itself as the state you're inside. Attention has adjusted around this without requesting explanation, not as a choice, as a consequence of what's already functioning. A thought appears, and there's a faint attempt to trace where it came from. The attempt doesn't complete. The thought still passes through. That pattern repeats in small, quiet ways. Sound arrives. The noticing of sound follows. Meaning checks briefly and then releases when nothing is offered to attach to. The body participates automatically. A blink happens, a swallow, a redistribution of pressure where you're supported. These movements register as outcomes, not decisions. They don't require justification to be real. There's a subtle change in how much effort is applied to maintaining orientation. The effort doesn't drop because it was instructed to. It drops because there's nothing asking for it. That reduction is another effect. The mind runs a familiar process, looking for cause, source, leverage. The process activates, scans, and finds no entry point. nothing is wrong with the process. It simply doesn't receive input. So adaptation occurs instead. A sensation at the mouth may register. Dryness, temperature, pressure, or the tongue shifts position without reference to intention. These are not signals. They are confirmations that response continues. And each confirmation stands on its own. The idea of monitoring what's happening surfaces briefly. Monitoring itself registers as another response. It doesn't provide control. It dissolves back into the same condition. There is no need to decide whether this is working. The concept of working implies a cause and effect chain that isn't available here. Experience continues without salting explanation. A thought forms, pauses, and dissolves. The gap it leaves behind doesn't ask to be filled. The system that normally organizes experience around a central reference keeps operating, but with less urgency. It doesn't shut down. It simply finds fewer tasks to perform. That reduction is gradual, uneven, and unremarkable. Another small physical adjustment occurs. Too minor to label cleanly. It still registers. Everything that registers counts as an effect. The question why may surface briefly, not as distress, but as habit. It searches outward and doesn't encounter a surface to land on. Sound continues. Sedation continues. Thought continues. Sensation continues. And yet, none of it requires a center to manage it. The idea of stepping outside of this to observe it more clearly arises and dissolves without becoming action. Stepping outside isn't available. Accommodation is. Accommodation is quieter than control. The body continues responding to conditions it doesn't need to name. Muscles maintain tone. Breath continues in whatever pattern it does, without being recruited as a tool. Nothing here asks to be optimized. The absence of an identifiable cause doesn't create confusion. It creates neutrality. Neutrality calls for continuation. There's no progression happening here. Nothing is building. Nothing is moving toward resolution. This is not a process. It's a condition. Thoughts appear downstream of something they can't locate. The mind accepts the appearance and releases the question of origin more quickly each time. Attention widens and narrows on its own. Neither movement announces itself. Both are responses. The system no longer checks as often whether anything needs to be done. When the check occurs, it dissolves quietly. Effort reduces in the absence of demand. There may be moments where nothing in particular stands out. That absence registers as another outcome. Nothing missing. Nothing required. Experience remains coherent without a manager. The sense of next loses relevance, not disappears, just deprioritized. The condition doesn't depend on sequence. Time passes without being used. Sound remains sound. Sedation remains sedation. Thought remains thought. Sensation remains sensation. None of it claims authorship. The mind stops attempting to solve this because there's nothing presenting itself as a problem. version that is running. Whatever registers next, however small, however neutral, belongs to the same category. Response continues without explanation.